Let me open up in prayer and we'll get moving here. Oh, and when I'm done, Craig's plate back in now. I don't want to forget that. Let me open in prayer. Heavenly Father, we gather here this morning once again, Lord. We are honored, we're grateful, and we're thankful, Lord, that you give us the opportunity to be here, to share, to hear your word, to dive a little bit deeper, Lord, for each one of us to get just a little bit deeper in our personal relationship with you, because that's what this is about, Lord. We come here to try to further that, to try to strengthen it, to get closer to you. And Lord, hopefully each man in this room takes something from today and is able to use it to help be your hands and feet to bring one more person closer to your kingdom. So Lord, equip us, help us, give us courage, give us strength as we go out into this world to share something from today's message to bring one person closer. Lord, I'm thankful for each man that's here, for the commitment they make to come here to learn more about you, to get closer to you. Lord, and to just fellowship with one another, because it means a lot to a lot of us just to come here, to see our brothers, to hang out, to fellowship with one another and help get closer to you and make the body stronger, Lord. So be with us as we go through our day. Let us take this to our workplaces, our families, our friends, and just use it, Lord. Lord, again, we're thankful, we're grateful, we love you, and we ask all these things in your name. Amen.
Amen.
Mr. Wilson, very short speech.
Welcome, gentlemen. Sorry you have to listen to me.
Well, I'm thinking it's going to be very informative today.
Well, I did this class for the Victory College class. In fact, John and Don were in my class, and this class was about almost 2 hours. So Rich came to me Sunday and said, hey, why don't you teach that Islam part? So here I am. You're going to get a Reader's Digest version, because we don't got 2 hours. So this is what I taught at the class. But we're going to learn a little bit how the Islam Nation started, what it stands for, what it stands for now. I'll tell you at the very end. And like I do in my classes at LBC and even the Victory College, if you have a question or if something comes into your mind, just ask it. I'm not a straight-through kind of lecture guy like Rich. I don't mind someone asking questions, even if it's in the middle of something. So the PowerPoint I did sort of has just all the information on it. I redid it. So it's not going to be like an outline. It's actually got information. We'll just read right from it. Anybody wants it, I'll email it to you. It's a quick PowerPoint about Islam, but I'll start in the beginning of how it started so you at least get an idea of where Islam came from, how it started, who started it, what it's about, what they stand for, and what they stand for now, and you'll see some things. So, Father, we thank you today that we are able to study your word, learn about other cults, learn about other isms, and that we can do it freely, Lord. Not many people have that privilege in other countries, and we don't take this lightly. Thank you very much. That may the words I say today, Lord, be from you and not from me. We just thank you for your son, Jesus, and we pray in his name. Amen. Amen. Okay, let's rock and roll. So, anybody ever heard of Islam? No. Wow. I ain't going on that one.
That was a good one.
Okay.
Pressure cookers.
Just to give you an idea, Islam makes up 20% of the world's population. It is the second largest, trailing only Christianity, and they're on our heels. Muslim followers of Islam are primarily spread over North Africa, the Middle East, South Central Asia, and Indonesia. This was a very, although it started in Saudi Arabia, this I found it to be kind of neat. That non-Arab Muslims now outnumber Arab Muslims in a ratio of almost 3 to 1. Okay, so Islam is the nation. Muslim is the religion. Just remember that. So if someone says you're from the Muslim nation, no, you're not. You're from the Islam nation. And it could be an Arab or it could be a non-Arab. A lot of countries in Africa and surrounding areas, Indonesia. And Indonesia, one of the reasons, if you look at these populations here, okay, Indonesia has 166 million people. Anybody know where Indonesia is? Okay, anybody know where Australia is? Right above it. It's like 5 huge friggin' islands. And Australia is getting an influx of the Muslim religion because of Indonesia. You can actually fly from Indonesia to Australia in 1 hour. So I know a lot more about this because my son dates a girl who was originally from Indonesia. So you have Pakistan, Bangladesh, this is the amount of people that there, and this is the percentage of Muslims that are in their country. Now you look at India and it says they only have 11% of population. The rest of it is Buddhist or Hindu. So not a lot of Christianity. Not a lot of Christianity, guys, all over the world, okay? I mean, it's prominent in Canada, it's prominent in England, you hope it's prominent in the United States. It's starting to be influx. Just ask France. France allowed a lot of Muslims into their government, and you can see what happened to France. Now they're trying to turn it around. They're actually the ones that warned us about watch what we do. Roughly 1/5 of more than 530,000 international students in the United States of America are from 40 Islamic nations. Anybody see what's going on in Chicago with this protest? You have Islamic students, and a lot of them that aren't U.S. citizens, protesting in Chicago with signs that say "Death to America." Now, I can guarantee you, 25 years ago,
They've been shooting them.
wouldn't happen. I have no problem with the Bill of Rights. Anybody can protest. The problem is what our country allows them to do is people that aren't U.S. citizens to protest against America. The Bill of Rights does not say that. That's what's wrong. You're a U.S. citizen, I don't care what you protest. You can protest your job, you can protest your country, you can protest your government, you can protest John, but we love John. You can protest anything. John's in my small group. Wait for that.
For a little while.
John retaliates. But the problem is when you're not a U.S. citizen, you're going to protest against America. So that's a big stink going on right now. And a lot of this comes from a lot of people in this country.
Yeah, the weakness in D.C.
So, most of these countries have a minimal number of Christians, which is sad, 0 to 2%. Okay? And the government either closed the country borders to missionaries or have made it illegal, or both. Most of it you're going to find in the Middle East is both. They don't allow Christians. You can't go over there as a missionary unless you have some kind of good excuse. So basically, go over as teachers. So and you guys know this isn't anything new. You're going over as teachers. So how did it start? In 570 A.D., write that down as a sad date.
Yeah.
Muhammad was born in an Arabian tribe called the Quraysh, and he was an influence because he controlled the city of Mecca. Now, anybody know where Mecca is? Great, it's in the Middle East. Dear Arab, you guys, right on it. So I need a map. Mecca was important because at that time it's where the caravan, this is where all the trades went. It's sort of like Israel. Some people ask, why did God, an old Jewish lady said to us in school one time, she goes, when I get to heaven, the first thing I'm going to ask God, Moses, is like, why did you put us in Israel? You got all these countries that have all this oil, and you stuck us in Israel, where there's nothing. And yet everybody wants Israel. Well, one of the reasons, if you look at a map, Israel's the center of the world. Okay, it's the dead center of the world. And so at that time, you have the Babylonian nation, you have Egypt. To get to those two countries, there were no train, planes, and automobiles. You had to walk through caravans. So you had to go through Israel. It's one of the reasons God put Abraham there to send his message out, because everyone had to go past through Israel, and the Jewish people were supposed to spread God's word. Failed, but that was the idea. Same thing at the time here. To go through Mecca for these countries, this was the biggest trading area. This is where all the money was. This is where the people gathered. So this is where everything was. And it was, they had, anybody ever know what the Kaaba is? You ever seen a picture of the Kaaba? Have you ever seen a picture of the Kaaba? It's a big square, looks like a big square building. I'll show you a picture in a minute. It's where everything was. And at this time, understand, the Arab nation was 360 gods. They had a god for every day. All right? So they had 360 gods. Whatever it was, you went into the Kaaba and you paid tribute to your god. That's how it started. Something happened when Ishmael left. In 610, Muhammad had his first revelation. That's not what his wife looked like. I just grabbed the picture. So, he said he had a revelation from the angel Gabriel, which led to the sacred scriptures of the Quran, which means recitations. Okay? Muhammad first, just to let you know, you can read it up here. Muhammad thought at first when he had these visions that it was a jinn, basically is a demon in the Middle East. So it's like a genie, but a bad genie. Okay? So he actually thought it was from a demon. It was his wife, Kashada, who told him, no, what you're getting is actual a revelation from God, so you need to go out and spread the Islam nation. At that time, it wasn't called that. It's just that you need to go out and spread this word that you're getting. What's that? So he did. We're going to go faster, and then we'll have to take questions. believe it or not, did not like this, just like any of these cults. And in fact, here's a big question, and Don and John can't answer this because they probably know, but anybody know the difference between a cult and an ism is? And do you know what an occult is? Okay, well, great. An occult is actually something that has to do with magic, powers, supernatural, Church of Satan, Wicca. That's an occult. A cult is usually something that usually is taken from Christianity and puts its own spin on it. Here you'll know this one. The Mormons, Jehovah's Witnesses. These are cults, okay? And cults aren't bad. Who's Pittsburgh Steelers fans? They're a cult.
Just like the Cowboys.
Kill them. Who watched the Pittsburgh Eagles game? That cult. But cult can be a good.
We'll take you again.
Cult can be a good thing. You can have a cult following Pittsburgh Steelers. You can have a cult following of a rock and roll star. You can have a cult following of he's the Patriots fan. So so you have a Patriots fan, a cult.
He's fine.
What's that?
He has Super Bowls, the Eagles don't.
One of the problems with Islam is they don't have football, the right kind. So that's a problem. We'll get to that later. So cults aren't bad. Isms are usually other religions. So I have a book called Kingdom of the Cults. Very interesting book. These guys that took the class have it. Tells you a lot about them. Islam's in the book, The Kingdom of the Cults, but just to let you guys know, it's not a cult. It's actually another religion. Okay? A cult also usually just follows one person. So Mormons followed Joseph Smith. Jehovah's Witnesses followed Charles T. Russell. So they follow one person. And everything is based off of one person's ideas, one person's ideology, and one person's theology, so they follow him. You have Muslims who will tell you that Christianity is a cult, because we follow one man. Well, we follow God, we don't follow a man. So it's a big difference, okay? And I'm going to ask you a question I want you to think about. Do you think that the God of Israel is the same as the God of the Islam nation? It's something to just think about right now when we get to it. So, there you go. After military sieges, Muhammad left Mecca, came back, destroyed all the idols in Kaaba. So Muhammad was the actual prophet who took away all the idols and turned people to one God. As you see, it wasn't taken kindly at first. And then he was able to control all the tribes of the Arabian Peninsula and come up with the religion, Islam. And then Muhammad died in 632 AD. Muhammad did not write the Quran, or the Quran, correctly spelled. He did not write it, just to let you know. We'll get to that. There's two major sects. People often ask about what is a Sunni and what is a Shiite, and how did they come about? Okay? Well, Sunnis, you can read this. This is their difference of opinion as far as how they think the government and the military and the civil rights should run. So they were divided over a dispute between who should take first. After Muhammad died, the caliphate who was going to be the successor of Muhammad. So the Sunnis insisted that the successor, try to say that 3 times real fast, should be elected, as in our government, a democratic government. They should elect the guy. That should be the head of the nation. The Shiites are the other way around, as you can see. Sunnis make up 80% of the Muslim population. Okay, let me give you an idea. People ask, who's worse, Sunnis or Shiites? And when I say that, the terrorist groups, who do you think they mostly are? Well, it seems like at first, back then, it was the Shiites. Al-Qaeda, Hezbollah, ISIS are Sunnis now. Ayatollah Khomeini, which you'll see in a minute, that's a Shiite. Okay? So there was a big dispute on who was going to do what. The brother-in-law went Sunni, the cousin went Shiite. This is how they break up. And I heard a gentleman speak one time who said it was a Jewish professor from Yale. He said, you just thank yourself that right now the Sunnis, and to this day, since this happened, Sunni and Shiites don't like each other. Because if they ever got together and decided that they liked each other, they'd own the world. Okay? They still disagree with each other. And there's other sects of Islam too, besides these two. These two are the most powerful ones, okay? Give you an idea, Iran, all Shiite. Okay, so Iran is mostly Shiites. Iraq has about 40% Shiites. The rest is Sunnis. Why there's a big fight going on between those two all the time, in inner battles. So when Iran and Iraq war happened, that's one of the reasons. It was predominantly a Sunni versus the Shiites. Most of the rest of the Shiites are scattered among countries like Yemen, Lebanon, not the one in Mannheim, near Mannheim, some parts of Africa and things like that, but most of the people now are Sunni, okay? So most of your radical Islam comes from the Sunni sect of the Islam nation. And so here's the difference. The Sunnis include the Hadith, which is a saying that's conducted of Muhammad's record. The Sunnah fills in many areas where the Quran is silent. So when you look at the Bible, okay, there isn't anything in here which is unique that you can't look up that happens in life that you can't find in this Bible. In the Quran, there's things that they can't answer. So when something comes up in their life, whether it be a marital problem, which they don't really have them because they do what they want, but anything that would come up, the Quran isn't always 100% to give you an answer. So they turn to the Sunnah, okay? And that includes the Hadith. But they have all these different little writings that they look at. Shiites, on the other hand, are more authoritative, as I said, and they believe that God spoke through someone called an imam, okay? And the imam would be like the Catholic, put this in here, would be like the Catholic Pope, to give you guys an idea. So that's their leader from the Shiites. They have an imam. The Ayatollah Khomeini, who remembers, who's old enough?
Yeah. John.
Some of you youngsters. When Iran took our hostages. Okay? Okay, so when Iran took our hostages, we had the Shah running Iran. The Shah was a Shiite, but the Shah was a friend of the United States. So we just sucked everything into him. We did wrong there. And we just so the Shah got a taste of the Western world. Mm-hmm. So he did what he wanted. And he wasn't nice to his people. This guy came along and took over the hostages, snagged our embassy, took the hostages. He was a Shiite on the opposite side of the original Shiite, where the Ayatollah Khomeini runs everything. The political end of the Islam nation, the military end of the Islam nation, and tells you who you can and who you can't marry. Kind of like a Mormon. So that's what he did. So the Shiites wait for the 12th Imam, in other words, they're actually the Mahdi. That's their Jesus coming back. They now think that will be Muhammad. Muhammad's going to resurrect himself and come back at the end times and take over everything. Okay, so you're going to see a lot of contrast, if you look at it, between Christianity. It's funny because here we have Jesus who died, rose, and he's coming back again. And it's funny how when I study all the cults and religions, there always seems to be something going to happen similar to that. So where did they get all this information? They think the same thing, that the 12th man is coming. This is not the 12th man at Texas A&M football. Just to let you know, it's a whole different idea. And those of you who don't know anything about college football, you have no idea what I just said. Okay, so this is how they work. This is their government. This is how Islam even works to this day. Okay, it has changed a little bit, and we're going to get that at the very end. Okay. So, Sunnis believe there should be a separation between civil and religious authorities. Shiites maintain that the religious authority should be exercised by both political and religious power. These are other isms in the Islam nation. Anybody hear of Sufism? This is like mystical, magical power of. This would be your Wicca. They believe more magic stuff that's going on. So these are very small sects in Islam, and Islam doesn't really give them one iota. Actually, believe it or not, this right here in Saudi Arabia is actually part of where Islam came from. The original is Wahhabis. So they have some funky names.
What have I told you about funny fonts?
What's that?
What have I told you about funny fonts?
I did that for you.
Just for me.
I actually had good fonts the whole time, right? Right, Don? I didn't really have too many funny ones, but in class before, I used to have funky colors and fonts, and Ben used to yell at me all the time and said, I don't like them.
I can't read that.
Yeah, well, that was just put there. This was actually put there back from the original class, but you don't need to memorize. There's no test. You don't have to memorize that. Okay, so here's the big thing. The term Islam means submission to the will of God, and the person who submits is called a Muslim. Okay? So the major beliefs of Islam include the following. God, the central doctrine of Islam. You can see this. And no partner is associated with their God. So, when you talk about the Trinity, and let me just say this to you. If you ever get an Islam person and you talk to them, we had one that was in our neighborhood, don't mention the Trinity. It's blasphemy to them. Okay? You could get killed if you were in their nation when you mention the Trinity. They consider that, like the Mormons will tell you, that's a three-headed God. Okay? And they're going to tell you, listen, Muhammad got rid of 360 idols in the Kaaba. He got rid of all those stinking three-headed gods. So this is blasphemy to an Islamic person when you tell them that Christ is part of a Trinity. Now, we don't always understand the Trinity. You just have faith that the Trinity, okay? But don't mention it to an Islam person, okay, or a Muslim. There's a lot of Arabs out there who don't even recognize the Muslim nation, meaning they don't practice the Muslim religion. They don't follow the 5 pillars of Islam, which I'll show you here in a minute. They're just like people here in the United States who call themselves Christians who don't follow Christianity. They just walk around Earth and just say, hey, everything's fine, like New Age. We're all it's like, we're the force be with you. Everyone believes in Star Wars, and we're just going to become part of the universe. Okay? So here's the cool thing. The angels are the gap between God and the Quran. That's all they tell you. They don't go into detail. It's just a good way of saying, when there's some things that we'll look at the Sunnah. If that's not the case, we'll look at the Imam. If that's not the case, well, it's an angel in between the gap between the Quran. The prophets, according to God, there was 420 prophets according to Muhammad. And as you can see here, these were the prophets. Adam, Noah, Abraham, Moses. I didn't name all 124 of them. We'd be here forever.
So they don't talk to their God like we have an open door to ours.
No.
They have to go through the angels first.
Not always, but they don't have a relationship with God. That's the biggest difference. And we'll get to that in a minute. So remember the question I asked you. Is the God of Islam the same as the God of Christianity? Is the God of Israel the same as the God of Islam? That's what you want to ask yourself right now. And think about that question. Okay, but Muhammad, let me say something. He said these were the prophets of old. Now here's the thing. The Islam nation believes in the Bible to a point. Old Testament, New Testament, not really. Okay? But they believe in Jesus. These are the prophets. And they gave specific reasons, Muhammad said to his people, why the prophets came. So, for instance, the book of the Torah. Okay, this is the Torah. This is the Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. The first 5 books of the Bible is called the Torah. This, he believes in. The Psalms, they read. He believes in them. It's fascinating to me when you read the Psalms because there's a lot of predictions of Christ. The Holy Bible, they believe, but they believe it's corrupted. That the Jewish people corrupted the whole Bible. Corrupted the Greeks, that corrupted the New Testament. Greeks didn't write the New Testament. Okay, so it was written in Greek, but it was written by other people. And then comes the Quran. Now let me tell you something about the Quran. This is a sacred book to them, just like your Bible's sacred. But this book, when they get one, and they live, breathe, and die by this book, and they eat this book, and they sleep with this book, and when this book is worn out, there's a ceremony. They bury this book as if one of their loved ones have died, and they have a ceremony for this book. Then they can get another one. So this is very sacred to them, the Quran. If you read in Kingdom of the Cults, back in the early days of Muhammad, he actually said to his people that you will not touch the people from the book. And what he meant by was, you ain't messing with the Jews who believe in the Torah. They're my people, don't touch them. This was his first rule, so to speak, to the Islam people, to the Muslim nation, that you were not supposed to touch people of the book, the Jewish people who believed in the Torah. He believed in the Torah. Okay? Now, one of the reasons he believed in the Torah, he just said parts of it are corrupt. Does anybody know one of the main parts of the Torah that he would say is corrupt? I'll give you a hint. It's in Genesis. Has to do with a guy named Isaac. What did Abraham do? Abraham took who to the mountain? His son. He was going to sacrifice his son. That's the corruption. It wasn't his son Isaac that was going to be sacrificed. It was Ishmael. Okay? If you want to make yourself, well, you're not Jewish. Anybody here Jewish? No, you're not Jewish. So if you had an Egyptian girlfriend and you were Jewish and you got married, you would make an Arab. That's what Abraham did. Abraham had relations with his Egyptian concubine. They had a kid. The kid's name was Ishmael. Ishmael was the beginning of the Arab nation. You don't know that. When God sent Ishmael and his mother out to the desert, what did he say to him? I will make a great nation of your son, but you will live and die by the sword. And to this day, the Islam nation lives and dies by the sword. This is one of the scriptures that I bring up to some Islam people to read that. They're going to tell you, though, it was corrupted. Okay, they're going to tell you that the Jewish people are going to live and die by the sword, and that Ishmael was the one that was being sacrificed, not Isaac. So that's one of the corruptions that Muhammad said happened in the book. I'll give you at the end why that can't happen. The holy book, before
How do they have proof of that?
they don't. They don't.
Right, I mean, we have to state our sources and different things when we're going
Like-
through classes, and you obviously know that.
Right.
So how does the Arab nation or Islamic nation back up the Torah? Or back again?
The Quran.
The Quran.
They don't. The Sunnah, the Hadith, and the Quran say that it was corrupt because Muhammad said it was corrupt. Muhammad said that all these guys are great prophets. They don't. The actual answer is they don't. They don't have anyone, and they don't care. They don't need one. It's what Muhammad said. Because what Muhammad told everybody was these guys, Moses was a great prophet, David was a great prophet, Jesus was a great prophet. That's all he was. Muhammad was the prophet of all prophets. So God had put 124 prophets ahead of Muhammad. And they all had their things to do. Okay, so you can't look at the Bible and say, well, Moses didn't exist. Well, that's impossible. We have more scrolls and more to tell you that Moses existed than Plato. Okay, and the same with Jesus. And I'll get this at the very end, but so they can't deny that this book existed. They can't deny that these people walked the earth, and some of them were eyewitnesses of eyewitnesses. But Muhammad said that it's corrupted, so they believe Muhammad. And that's just the way it is. They don't have proof. Okay? Just remember this. Muhammad did not write the Quran. Muhammad couldn't read or write. Okay? Now, God has called many prophets in this world, and every one of them was pretty intelligent. I don't think he called a lot of prophets that couldn't read or write. Moses could read or write. Moses stuttered, but Moses could read or write. Every one of them could probably read or write. Muhammad couldn't read or write. Okay? And he had people, when he would cite things and he had a vision, he would tell Kahashadah or his people around him, which at that time was his son-in-law and his cousin, and they would write things down. Okay? And when Kahashadah died, he married a 13-year-old. And she had most of the Quran, when he died, given to the people to rewrite it. Okay? The Quran is written anywhere from a 6th to an 8th grade reading level. Okay? That's the vocabulary that's in the Quran. And do remember this, if you read the Quran, I should have bought one. Plagiarize. Big time from the Bible. But, to answer your question again, no. And what they say is Muhammad said it's not plagiarism. The Bible plagiarized from the Quran. So basically, just like any other cult, like the Mormons and Jehovah's Witnesses, God came down and told these people, sorry, don't mean to stand in your way. God came down and told these people that, hey, this is all good. You're the last prophet. They kind of messed up and got it wrong. I need you to fix it. It's basically what he told them. So, there you go. We have the Quran. Muhammad's going to fix it. So, if they tell you the Bible's corrupted, you have to believe it. So they have judgment. This is what they believe. The God of the Quran will judge one day, and if your good deeds outweigh your bad deeds, how many people have heard this before with most cults? You will go to heaven. You will get virgins. They don't tell you the sex, but you're going to get them. So be careful what you believe. Nor do they tell you if it's a female or an animal. So I don't really know. Okay? And if you do, you laugh at us. Heard a Christian comedian say that. He said, no one ever told you the sex they were going to be.
Yeah.
So anyway, well, that's said because Islam does not believe and will not put up with homosexuality whatsoever. So if you claim to be gay in Islam Nation, run. Run fast and run far because you'll die real fast. And they don't care. There's no question. You'll just be dead. That is a part of the Bible they believe. That God just, dislikes. What is he? What's the word God uses in the Bible? It's the detestable act. Anybody remembers Pastor Kirk talking about the detestable act? That is our best word that we could come up with. It doesn't mean that God despises the act, but it's not the word detestable he uses. We're actually in the Greek word. It means in the Hebrew word. It means a separation from God. So basically, God keeps telling people homosexuality. If you keep doing this, this is going to cause you to be separated from me. That's really what the word means in Hebrew. That was free. You just got that, like Pastor Kirk said. So here's the first 5 pillars of Islam. This is all you need to do to become a Muslim. So if any of you do this while we're going over this, just get out. Recite the Shahada. It means to bear witness. All one has to do is say, I bear witness that there is no God but Allah, and Muhammad is the messenger. All it takes to become a Muslim. Please don't say it. By the way, Allah is just the Hebrew, the Islamic word for God. If you want to know how the language came about, real fast, here's another free one. It came kind of from Aramaic. The Aramaic language was basically a cross between the Jewish language. The Jews got captured in 586 BC, went over to Babylon. We all know this story, right? And from Babylon, when they came back, crossed the 2 languages. It became Aramaic. Anybody ever see Passion of the Christ, the movie? Okay, and in movies, the whole thing's in Aramaic. It's more than likely, some theologians will tell you that probably is what Jesus spoke the most back then, because it was a cross between the 2 languages. One of the cool things about the Hebrew language, we can take any language you have, from English, which by the way was not the first language, just in case you want to know. It's not the first language. God did not speak in King James, just to let you know that too. Okay? The Hebrew language is kind of cool because we can't trace it. You can trace calligraphy. You can trace the Chinese symbols. You can trace Japan's language. You can trace Portuguese. You can trace anything. You can trace the Spanish language. You can go back to when it started. We do not know how the Hebrew language came about. It was all of a sudden there. It was just there. We can't figure out to this day when the Hebrew language started. Now, you'll get theologians will tell you it started with Adam and Eve. What they spoke, I have no clue. It wasn't King James. It wasn't English. There was some kind of Hebrew, I would assume, because Hebrew is one of the most unique languages, which can take a word and turn it into a sentence. And Hebrew has no vowels. Okay? So when you look at the word Yahweh, it's YWHW for us. Don't know. It's just, there's no vowels in Hebrew. So it's a tough language to learn. But when you learn the language Hebrew, I'm telling you, the Bible, and this is why I talk to a lot of these guys that speak Hebrew at LBC, and you probably know some of them, and you know some of them. Man, that Bible goes from black and white to color. Because you're going to learn things like when Pastor Kirk, I like when he preaches, and he always gives you the Hebrew word and tells you the actual meaning. And so sometimes we get, it's not that the English Bible's wrecked. You know, I had a professor say to me, I asked him one time, well, what's the best English Bible? He said, they all suck and they're all great. Because each one has a slightly different translation depending on what scroll they may be looking at or what their purpose is to translate into the English language. So one of your better English language Bibles to buy to study from would be ESV. Some people call it the English Superior Version. It really stands for the English Standard Version. And it takes a combination of Hebrew Greek, and all the other English Bibles and sticks them into one book, and they call it ESV. It's a very good book. God so loved the world that he gave his only, how do you say King James? Begotten Son. Not a good translation. Begotten means someone from an original flesh family. That's all begotten means. It should say, as it does in some of the new Bibles, God so loved the world that he gave his one and only Son. That's the actual Hebrew and Greek translation is one and only Son. So there's some things, it's not that it wrecks the Bible, it's just a little different. So when you learn some Hebrew and Greek terms, it actually opens it up sometimes a little bit better to talk to people. That's why it's always good to get a study Bible, and when you read the Bible, then read the study part again. That would be another free thing for you to do. Or listen to it. So these are the 5 things you have to do. Pray. They do it 5 times a day. Fast. When they're receiving the Quran. The other ones are up here. Give alms, which they give to the poor and needy. And they are good at that. Whether their government actually does it anymore, I don't know, but they used to. And to make pilgrimages, which means you need to, by the way, this is the Kaaba. This is where they go to worship sometimes in Mecca. This thing is just huge. And inside this little bad boy was 360 gods at one time. And now it's just Muhammad. And that's where he's coming back. That, the Rock of the Dome is going to come back. Either one, they're not sure. But that's the Kaaba. So you can see that you need to go visit that. So if any of you guys do the first 4 and then actually go to Mecca, I know we're in trouble. One of you is in trouble. But that's how you become, that's all you have to do, the 5 pillars of Islam to be a true Muslim. Okay? And by the way, everyone always picks an angel that we know. I just love it, Angel Gabriel. Gabriel does a lot of things, by the way, so study Mormonism, study Jehovah's Witnesses. Gabriel and Michael are all over the place, man. They're talking to everybody. Moroni, you name it, they got them. So what does jihad really mean to Muslims? Well, jihad is a loaded term, and here in the West, when you say jihad, you're going to think of what? Holy war. Okay? It's not what jihad initially means. So it is actually a fight within oneself. I'll give you the layman's terms, okay? That's what it means, to fight within oneself, to get rid of all the badness in you and become good, and get one with Allah. That's what Islam means. Now, it has been hijacked by us and by other people and by the Muslim nation. It has been hijacked to turn into a holy war. In the Quran, there are parts of the Sunnah, which is part of the Quran, that says that if a Muslim is threatened by any other religion or any other country that has to do with their religion, their nation, they are to kill them. They are to fight back. It was if you were attacked. It wasn't that we as a group here go out and walk into a neighborhood and just go beat the crap out of someone because we don't like them. It's not what it was about. It was supposed to be if you were attacked and they were not a Muslim, then you were to kill them. Okay? Now, with that part of that little spot in the Sunnah, in 5 Sunnah, in the Quran, a guy named Osama bin Laden took it and decided to twist that sucker till there's no tomorrow, and now everybody believes it. And he says that you are to kill all the infidels. That you are to destroy anybody that does not believe in the Islamic nation or the Muslim way. You are to kill them. It doesn't matter about who you are, you're to kill them. It's not originally what Muhammad had in there. But that's what, when we think of jihad, and when you talk to a lot of young Muslims now, when you say jihad, that's what they're going to actually think of now, that it's a holy war. But it didn't really mean that at first. Okay? Now, and I'm not defending the Islam nation by any means, and I'm not saying it's not violent. Okay? It wasn't originally, they'll tell you that it's not violent. Okay? And when a Muslim says that Islam is a peaceful nation, okay, there are Muslims who are peaceful within themselves, but the actual acts of the Muslim nation now is nowhere near peaceful. So let me just state that. There are Muslims who will tell you. I have a gentleman named, when I was at the Christian Missionary Alliance Church, who came to speak with us. His name was Abdul, and the last name makes me choke a little. I can't remember how his last name is pronounced. But anyway, he was a radical Muslim who became a Christian, and he was originally from Syria. He told us back in 2007, this is how long ago, that he says, you guys don't like what George Bush did, we would kiss George Bush. When he went back to his home country, Iraq, if you looked in Iraq when the United States was there were 7 signs. Now this is a fact, you can look it up. There were 7 signs in the corner of each of these streets of Iraq that said, Jesus is the light of the world. Now it never would have been able to be hung up when Saddam Hussein was in power. But when he was out of power, it got hung up. There was a lot of Muslims that were against it, but he had these churches. He was in hiding for 7 years until the United States went back into Iraq, and then he went back to his home country. He was in Syria, moved to Iraq, had to go back to Syria and hide, and then he came over to the United States. And if any of his people, any of his friends, who were once his friends, who were Muslims, found out he was a Christian, they would kill him. And they have the right to kill him. Okay? Share law. We just have the right to kill him. So he's always in hiding when he goes over. So there you go. Now this is your radical Islam. So what's the difference between a Muslim and a radical Muslim? Does anyone know? One will kill you, one won't. Basically what it is.
Yeah.
Okay? But here's the thing. This is what Dr. Finkbinder was telling me one time. You're going to have Muslims who tell you that they're peaceful, okay? But they will condone, a lot of them, not all of them, but they will condone what these guys will do. They may not participate, but they will condone what these guys will do. For instance, you have people in Chicago, Deaf to America. They probably, and I would hope not, go out and kill anybody. But they're not against, if something happens to one of you guys, that they wouldn't cheer for it. That's the sad thing. You're a Pittsburgh Steelers fan. I know you don't like the Patriots. And I know you don't like Tom Brady. Now here's my question. Tom Brady gets traded to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Are you still a Pittsburgh Steelers fan?
No.
Well,
He's too old.
80% of people probably still be a Pittsburgh Steelers fan. Bill, he would disown them. What's that?
Tom would boycott that.
Tom would boycott that. But that's my point, is that it's sort of almost like that. It's almost like not to even get into politics, which I'm not going to, but Republicans and Democrats. There are people who will vote Republican and Democrat just because it says Republican and Democrat, without looking at the person. It just happens. It's on both sides, not just one side. It's on both sides. See you, Don. Love you. Bye. What time is it? What is it?
6:30.
So I got a few more minutes before we break. So it's the same thing with them. 2 more minutes? Okay. So we'll go fast. So you got to be the timer, man. You got to help the brother out on this. So one of the questions: is Islam really a religion? Is it peaceful? Real quick, this says that Islam was never peaceful. From the time that Muhammad left and went to Medina, okay, he fought every chance he could to come back to Mecca, to own Mecca, to become part of Mecca, because that's where the money was. He fought every time. They've been fighting ever since. People will say to you, well, Christianity is not a peaceful religion, right? I'm going to go fast, we have to get out of here. Is Christianity a peaceful religion? Are there wars in the Bible? Did God punish people? Okay, but here's the big difference. Okay, I've had a lot of people say, who, like one of my neighbors at the time, well, Christianity is evil, look at the Crusaders. I'm going to give you all quick here, this is free. The Crusaders, when they started, were not Christians. Crusaders were the military end of the king. They did whatever the king said. So if the king said go attack somebody, they went and attacked somebody. The king said go kill these people, they went and killed these people. Later on, as this developed and some of the Crusaders became Christians, they still kept this, hey, we got to turn these Arab people into, there was no non-Arab people, just Arabs at the time, back to Christianity. But Christianity was Crusaders only ever defended themselves. They never went out until later on and attacked people. They actually always just defended. It was by the rule of the king. That's where the Crusaders came from. And people will say, well, they wore a cross on their chest. Okay, well, that was the king's symbol. And Scientology has a cross as they're thinking, when you walk down that Hollywood Boulevard, you go to Scientology church, which does not believe in God whatsoever, and they use a cross. Everyone uses a cross. Okay, it's a symbol to say it's religious. I don't know why, but it's just it. I think God did it for a reason. Okay? So it's hard to say that Christianity is violent. Jesus never told anybody to be violent. When they captured him in the Garden of Gethsemane, what did he tell Peter when he took out his sword? Exactly. So he put it away. He never condoned violence. Doesn't mean you don't defend yourself. I have a problem with Christians who say, I'm getting my butt beat, I should just turn the other cheek. No, you shouldn't. Jesus meant turn the other cheek in an argument. Don't get into this problem, turn the other cheek. But it's not what he meant. You can defend yourself. It's up to you. If your life's in danger, defend yourself, okay? But anyway, I was going to tell you some more, but we got to roll. Questions, real quick, before I go to the last part. Who doesn't understand something? Now let me give you a big thing.
You ask about the God being the God of the Jewish people.
Okay. Who believes, and thank you, who believes that Allah and Yahweh are the same? Who believes they're different? Raise your hand. Okay. It's yes and no. Muhammad believed that Yahweh is the God of Islam. Here's the big difference. And most theologians will tell you now that it's the same God. One of the differences, you have a relationship with God because of Christ. They don't have a relationship with their God. So they don't have a relationship with the God. They believe in the God of Israel. You believe in the God of Israel. They believe in the Torah. You believe in the Torah. They believe in Psalms. You believe in Psalms. They believe in the Bible. You believe in the Bible. They believe it was corrupted, and that's why the Quran came. Okay? They do believe in the God of Israel. They make no doubt about it. The God of Israel was Abraham was the father of nations. They believe that. They just believe Abraham was to be the father of the Islamic nation, and everyone else should go bye-bye. See? So they put a twist to it. The thing is, they can't have a relationship with God. God is way out there. Okay? He's on Jupiter. And you guys are sitting in Jersey somewhere. Because it's voice and voice. Okay? So you're there. And you can't have a relationship. It doesn't matter how close you think you're going to get, you can't. The only relationship you can ever have is if you do more good than you do bad, and you go to heaven, and you get to see God at that time. Otherwise, there's no relationship. Okay? So whatever the Quran says, that's what they go by. Muhammad is the only relationship you're going to have. You guys, we don't have a relationship with one man. We have a relationship with God. They have a relationship with Muhammad. That's their way.
Well, one of the things I heard, though, is to get to heaven, you got to do more good than bad. But I also heard that if you die a martyr, you go to heaven. And
Right.
that's how they get so many people to kill themselves, because I know I'm not going to be able to do more good than bad, but if I blow myself up, I'll be a martyr, and then I can go to heaven.
And that's the extremist end of it. That's where the twist comes with Osama bin Laden. Do you ever notice these guys, Osama bin Laden and all the Ayatollah stuff? They never kill themselves. They always get somebody else to do it. Okay? So the biggest thing that gets me with, even with cults, the people are willing to die for one man. Where we had one man die for people. Big difference. Okay? And that's one of the big differences. So, yes, you're correct, but they still think that's a good. So if they blow themselves up, it's like points. It's like a point. They get a lot of points for being a martyr. And so Ayatollah Khomeini and all these radical Muslims, they're the ones who've twisted the jihad into a holy war, and they're the one and that's the way the country's going now. Now, people will ask me, why don't Islam like Americans? Muslims, Islam's a nation, Muslims a religion. The religion doesn't like a lot of governments. There are certain countries where the Muslim people hate the government, not just the United States. But they don't mind some of the people because it's how the elections take place. Unfortunately with you guys, when people say they're a peaceful nation and they blew up the towers, you are part of the government. Since we have a declaration that says government by the people, you are considered the government to the Islamic nation. So therefore, you can die just like any woman and child. We can go blow up the towers. We hate you because not Muhammad, but his followers said you are the great Satan. So that's one of the reasons the United States and England when they do terrorist acts, they don't care if they kill a woman or child. You're going to hear people, you're going to hear our own government say, oh, they're a peaceful nation. It's a bunch of crap. They're not, okay? It really isn't. Don't believe it, guys. I can get you theologians 40 times smarter than me, and they're going to tell you the same thing. They're not peaceful. They are, some of them are peaceful within themselves. But if you follow the Islamic extremist Muslim religion, it is not peaceful. They will blow you up as an American because they believe you are the government. You could disagree with your government. You could disagree with Trump. You could disagree with Hillary. But they don't see it that way. They're going to blow you up because you're the government. And that's why they hate you.
Mark, get back to Muhammad. How did he get rid of the 360 gods?
He went in there and just told them that they were all wrong. He went in.
Oh, he just told them?
He told them they were all wrong. He
He
smashed them and got
conquered
rid of them. And they believed it. He
Did
told
he
them he had.
conquer?
What's that?
He conquered them.
Yeah.
He conquered each clan.
Well, yeah, he went back to
he
Mecca
cut
6
their
different
heads
times.
off if they didn't
Yeah,
play.
he went
What
back
they
to
do
6 different
today?
times. He killed anybody that didn't agree with him. That's what I'm
Yeah,
saying. They're a
yeah.
violent nation. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
I mean, that's when people say, oh, they're not violent. Well, they were violent from the day one. When he went back to Mecca every time, he killed and fought them until he owned Mecca.
You had 3 ways, right?
You have 3 ways to believe in him. That's
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, and what you got today in the Muslim religion. You
Yeah.
got 3 ways,
There's
right?
3 ways. And it's
It
turned
ain't
very
right.
extremist. Now, here's something, if someone were to say to you, the thing about the Muslim nations, you're not going to be able to talk about the Bible too much. You're going to have to talk about proof. So I'll give you this and then I'll end it. And I told Don and John, they've heard me say this, but when someone says to you, why do I believe in the Bible? Don't say it works for me. There was a teenage kid who went to jail one time. When he was about 20 years old, he was in jail, and he stayed there, and someone said, you better come to God. So he came to God, he got out of jail, and his savior was Muhammad. And that guy's name was Malcolm X. Okay? Malcolm X later died by the hands of 3 people from the Islamic Nation because he denounced the Islamic Nation. And when he went to visit the Middle East and Mecca and everywhere, he realized these people are violent. They're not what they say they are. He denounced them, started to turn to Christianity, they killed him. There's a perfect example of someone switching from Islam to Christianity. So don't say it works for you. If you remember this, and I got this from John a long time ago, Moody Bachman said it best. There's reasons why you should believe in the Bible, okay? Because you have a reliable historic collection, okay? That's what the Bible is. It's an historical, reliable collection of scrolls. That's what you have. That were written over 1,600 years. That were written by over 40 different authors. That were written in 3 different languages on 3 different continents by eyewitnesses of eyewitnesses. That's what you should tell somebody. And you should tell them, after that you have a historical collection of documents. That's the key. We go back. You have 20,000 documents that prove Old New Testament. You have 6,000 documents alone, full and partial, that tell you that Jesus is what he is, the New Testament. You have 5 that tell you who Plato was, original documents. You have less than, anybody remember Alexander the Great? You have 12 original documents that tell you Alexander the Great is who he is. Anybody here Confucius? Aristotle? You have 0. The only reason you know Aristotle existed is because Plato told you. You only got 5 documents that tell you Plato existed. You have over 6,000 original documents that prove Jesus is who he is, full and partial. One of the greatest finds was 1947, Dead Sea Scrolls. When you add the Old Testament in, guys, you have 20,000 documents that prove the Bible is what it is. No other book in history, no other pamphlet in history, no other novel in history can ever say that, can ever match the amount of information that you have to prove that the Bible exists. And that's what I would say to these people. And when you talk to Islam, you tell them the 7 I Ams. Does anyone know what the 7 I Ams are? That would be, and you can get it from John. John 6:35 says, I am the bread of life. Okay? John 8:14 says, I am the light of the world. And John 10:9 says, I am the gate. John 10:11 is going to tell you that I am the good shepherd. 14:6 is going to say, I am the truth, the way, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. And 15:5 is going to tell you, I am the vine. Apart from me, you can do nothing. If you remember those 7 I Ams, that is ways you can talk to an Islamic person. Because they're going to have to look that up. And that 7 I Ams proves who Yahweh really is, okay? And the fact that you have historical documents, that's it. Quran doesn't have it, like Don said. How do they prove it? They can't. They can't even go back. They got about 13 pieces of a document that some 13-year-old girl wrote down along with a couple other people, and then a bunch of people put together the Quran. That's all you have. So it's a tough thing. It's a tough sell. It's a tough sell to an Islamic person. I would say good luck when you come to someone. You
Take your
choose
gun
word.
and knife with you too.
Don't argue with them. Don't argue with them. Don't mention the Trinity. Mention the 7 I Ams. It's one of the best things I heard someone tell me one time when you're going to talk to Islamic. You're going to break up into your groups. Is that what they're going to do? Talk about that. How would you talk to a Muslim person? See what you think. Come up with some ideas. I'm sorry.
Well, we're the only one, Christian is the only one with the God that's alive,
Right.
rose from the dead.
Yeah. And Muhammad, you can still dig his bones up. You can't find Jesus. You know? I had a lot more. I went into more detail in the college, but you got the Reader's Digest version, so to speak, so I apologize. So I hope you learned something, a little bit. If you have any questions, I'd be glad to ask them. If I don't know it, I'll give you my opinion. If I don't know that, I'll tell you to do what my professor told me. Google it.